Hey, everybody, welcome back to another edition of the Transformation Leaders Podcast. My name is David Soden, and today I'm joined by Sean, and we've got a special show for you, especially if you are the age of Sean and I, and we're not going to tell our age, but in any event, for those of you that are familiar with Detroit Auto and the good old big muscle cars back in the day, after that whole thing dried up and, Detroit kind of fell to the wayside, that whole northern area known as the Rust Belt was really, really popular. I don't know, I guess starting in the mid 80s to into the 90s. And so economically, that place became depressed. Well, we've got a similar story, or Sean actually has a similar story for you today. And he's going to kind of give the analogy of this Rust Belt and walk us through a modern version of where we're at with that today in business and leadership and AI and the whole nine with that. So, Sean, can you kind of walk us through what you've got?
Certainly. So I want to be honest. Over the past, I'd say 3 months, the tech industry has been impacted. Most likely, if you're a leader in the tech industry or in the tech trades, you are seeing effects. Many people are losing their jobs. They're being displaced. And there's a lot of pain out there. And like many others out there who are thought leaders, we need to figure out what allegory it is and try to put on our prediction hats and say, what is the world going to be in 5-10 years? And then we can give advice to our colleagues, to our peers, to our business partners, our associations. And this is where I kind of land. I think AI is absolutely restructuring the technology industry. And let me walk you through why I say that. And for people who are Gen Xers or millennials, you might get a lot of these references more. If you're not, if you're a little younger than that, there's always Wikipedia to learn about what NAFTA was and how things were back in the 90s, or as my wife says, the glory times. So let me just jump right in here. And, in 94, there was an agreement made in North America that did free trade so that you could make things in Canada and Mexico and deliver them across the border without tariffs. And this was a massive shift and change for a lot of people in the Great Lakes area, otherwise called the Rust Belt, because they built things there. Cars is very good example of this. And that now during the AI era, we're seeing a lot of hollowing out of cognitive labor versus physical labor. So before, people would go through and they would put, tires on cars, manufacturing in a manufacturing line. And now you've got people who are creating code in a manufacturing line of sorts called Agile. It is still labor, physical versus cognitive. Now, cognitive is being disrupted just like physical was. I make the point, I've made the point in the past that my dad told me in the 90s, you need to learn how to type on a computer because you're not going to work with your hands, you're going to work with your fingers. And that's the lesson of the land that was learned when I was growing. And that is a reflection of what's going on today. Now, I think that generative AI is this new NAFTA, right? It used to be you need to learn how to code, right? That's what they told people to do. You need to learn how to code. And now AI has commoditized all that baseline cognitive behavior. And it's certainly hollowing out the people who basically just know how to code, or basically know how to create a PowerPoint, or create a infogram. These things used to take hours and days of labor to do, and now with probably 2-3 hours of experience, they can be done in minutes. So this is really the change. And it used to be where, and we talked about this recently, it used to be you had to hire a body shop of people to be able to build a company, or build a new product, or build a new service. And, you know, the end result of this is that people are going to have a very small set of AI native people in their organization, and that standing army that they needed back in the day just isn't needed anymore, because AI is that standing army, and it's not needed for $200 an hour. It is effectively $200 a month. So big changes. Does this make sense, David?
It does. It absolutely does. And you and I talked in the back room in the pre-show a lot about, what the impact this means to the education system and stuff too. So the ramifications of what you just described are far, far reaching into the economic state. And I'm at a loss. I'm at a loss for words. It really depends on ultimately where folks want to take it in the future and how they handle it.
And that's the next thing I want to talk about, is a lot of SIs out there that I'm seeing and I'm talking with. They're either, one, lamenting the fact that they've been put into a spiral, or number two, bragging how they avoided this spiral. So what happened when AI came across was there was a bit of a demand compression. They wanted more for less. And if any of you out there have ever talked to a customer, and they're trying to tell you basically what they want, they always want more for less. That's just the nature of business today. So what people did was they purged some of their talent. And in fact, what they did was they purged their higher priced, which usually is more experienced people, to save money. You can keep maybe 4 or 5 offshore people for the cost of 1 onshore people. And this is what happens is those people who get purged reach out to their previous existing clients and say, hey, I'm on the street, I'd be happy to take a contract. And so that purge turns into a raid. And then the next step happens, which is, okay, we need fewer people now because we've contracted these people that are not you, and then we need less money, less people. And this just keeps happening and happening until all the high quality talent is really being relocated for half the price, and the value fizzles away. And I'm seeing this across the board, in many service integrators are dealing with this situation. And maybe it's not their fault. Maybe they did it the right way. But in the SI space, most customers use multiple different SIs, and they're getting hit with demand compression because of a competitor breaking up. So a lot of this stuff is the sign of the times and really hurting a lot of demand. It's pushing a lot more contract work and a lot of fractional work as things go along. And then there's reasons for that. You know, what happens is you end up with two different types of high quality talent. You've got the commando, right, that goes out there. These are the people that I would say are the transformation leaders out there. They understand transformation, and then they have deep domain experience and problem solving, so they can basically turn your lemons into lemonade, right? And then there is a whole new role out there called the janitor. So their job is to catch, do that diving catch, right? So someone threw a Hail Mary and they just happen to be in the end zone and it's their job to catch it. These things are new needs of the business. And a lot of SIs that I'm talking to are looking for these type people. The people who can push a broom and clean up mistakes that are not theirs and make things right. And then they're looking for the people who are going to be incredibly adaptive to whatever the customer demand is. As irrational as it may be, you know, how can we take a bad idea and turn it into a good idea, right? These are the new roles that I'm seeing because of the situation. David, does that make sense?
It does. Yep.
Now, this is all being driven by the impossible position of where executives are nowadays. And you know, they're getting pressure from above saying, hey, I read it in the news, AI is supposed to cut pricing by like 50%, which is completely irrational. You know, AI is not going to be the one that picks up the phone at 3 a.m. to talk to a customer, right? Just never going to happen. Where, you know, the customer is going to say, hey, I'm paying money. I expect to talk to a human being. I was just on a call today with a bank, and it took me 20 minutes because I didn't have the account number, and it would not let me through because I couldn't provide something that is specifically the reason why I was trying to call. So, you know, you're going to run into these problems all the time. You know, AI should never replace humans, but that's the pressure that executives are getting. Replace humans with AI. Make those massive savings now. Now, from below, you've got overwhelmed ground level managers who are running out of time and people to manage. If they don't have the people, they can't get the work done. AI does not really do anything on its own. You need a human to orchestrate it. If there are no humans to orchestrate AI, then, or they don't know how to, you're not going to get much value. And so they're stuck in this situation. How do you navigate this? And the best way to do it is to reorient some of the people, right? And reframing what's going on and educating, because what the media and what the hype is saying to everybody is certainly causing more problems than it's solving. Now, this dream of replacing top architects with chatbots is ridiculous, right? Trying to hit absolute impossible targets while destroying institutional knowledge is not the way to make P&L work better, right? The value of AI is in infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
If you put your name on infrastructure, right, you're not going to go very far in the business world. What you need to do is understand, let's put AI aside. What are our business problems? Solve a business problem, you will have plenty of stay and control in your job. A lot of people are trying to say, I want to use AI to solve a problem, when you need to invert that. You need to say, what is the business problem? Of course, we're going to use AI to solve it.
I think a lot of
Some business problems are easier to solve with AI than others. I'm sorry, David, what?
I was going to say, I think a lot of times, if people would just use AI, measure the AI, get the response that they're looking for after they see the fruit of that whatever effort that they produce, then if they want to release or get rid of or consolidate or go on that path, that would be the most optimal. But as you're describing things, they're cutting off their nose, unfortunately, despite their face, and they're preemptively or prematurely making these cuts very deeply, and there's no recovering from that, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, I mean, the problem, we've seen this, I know in my career, too many years, the person who starts the shooting ends up saving a bullet for themselves at the end.
Yeah, this is true.
And so, solving business problems should be the first point. And if you're not solving a business problem, then you should be worried. I've said this a lot of times. Being a cognitive laborer, that's fine. You just need to understand, if you are not attached or aligned to a business goal to generate revenue or protect revenue, you're probably not very safe. And skills are how a lot of people avoided mixing up with being revenue focused. Well, guess what? AI destroyed all your moats when it comes to skills. And that's kind of what I want to talk about now. In the post-AI economy, there are three areas that people need help. One is education. And me and David have talked about this at length of education. We've done a lot of education on this channel. But I just, at this point, I've said this repeatedly, the people who want to be educated are have already been educated. And the people who do not want to be educated, they specifically don't. So the second leg is really strategy. Management consulting was a very big thing, and it was very hit or miss. The power of strategy consulting now is in the hands of everybody using AI. So getting an understanding of, should we do this, is now so much easier than before. Investing time and effort into a market or trying to solve a problem, you can easily understand how long it will take to do something and then what value it would provide before doing it. There is no reason whatsoever to put the cart before the horse on any kind of business solution now that AI is here. But my favorite, the thing that I think is going to get a lot more powerful for all of us, is being able to generate outcomes. and doing so in a much more hygienic way, measurable business results, being able to, I did this the other day with one of the companies that I represent. I took a copy of all of their commits and understood how long it took generating the business results reporting on this, and be able to hand this off to a prospective client and say, this is what we do, this is how we do it, and it's all data driven. It was a massive difference compared to what they have seen in the market today, and certainly a departure of what they've seen in the past. In AI world, faking it is super easy. Being data driven and reporting that data and connecting it to reality, being authentic, that's what people are going to buy post AI.
The world has changed.
It is. And speaking of which, you cannot outrun AI on a technical breath, right? This is what I've heard people go like, Sean, I'm not going to learn AI. I'm going to learn a new language. I'm going to learn Rust. I'm like, okay, why do you want to spend time learning Rust? Large language models know Rust really well. You have one language. You could create it in that language and convert it to Rust and be able to see the difference. It's this treadmill of skills that we've all been trained to do. I need a resume that shows 50 different technologies that I know well. Well, guess what? The value of having skills, a variety of skills, has been significantly reduced in the post-AI world. The best, when I tell people and they ask me, Sean, what should I do to show people to get a new job? And I said, find a problem, even if it's your home problem, it's at the house. Build a solution with testing and best practices, put it in a repo publicly, and then put that on your resume. Show, hey, here's projects I did myself. I designed them, I built them, I created sales material, I created a support desk for it. You have the capability of doing all these things for very low cost right now. So spend your time on the bench building and having those examples ready so that you could show off your prowess when it comes to critical problem solving and orchestrating AI.
I always tell everybody, make sure to save all of your prompts and document whatever it is you've done as a process, and then take that documentation, take your prompts, and then ask Claude or OpenAI or whatever you're using to essentially make a skill. All of these platforms now use skills. There's a skill.sh. I think Anthropic runs that now. But in any event, save that. That is your proof of how to orchestrate AI. And you understand how to document a business process, how to make your prompts, and then how to have AI orchestrate that work stream for you in a way that AI can essentially do what it needs to do, but you're the orchestrator. You have to prove that you're the janitor, as you were talking about earlier. And a code repo, even though you might not be a developer, is a really, really easy way to do that. And honestly, if you are a little lost on how to do any of that, Sean and I would be more than happy to help you out with that.
Absolutely. So this boils down to, in post-AI world, there are only two roles. Now, before, There are hundreds, maybe thousands in an SI. In the future, there's two roles. One is the AI orchestrator. They don't write code, they build things with AI agents. And their job is to ship business solutions, supportable, high quality business solutions. And if you, as we just talked about, and you have the capability right now to do something, have IP that you can share and show people that you can build stuff, you can ship it, it's quality, it has the test plans, it has the test reports, you did security testing, you did all of this software is incredibly low price for you to do at home. And who knows? I talk to people all the time who have built something somebody was interested in, and they ended up getting money off of it, right? And they became a sole founder of a software company. And I'm talking to those people about using what we talked about last week to help them go to market with it. So I always recommend now's not a better time to build. If you are going to show that you want a post-AI role, AI orchestrator is the easiest one to get into. A lot of our technical brethren, this is what they need to be working on. Now, the second one is the farmer, the network farmer, right? They're the ones that spend all their time talking to people. Now, there are plenty of tech-savvy people who just have a problem communicating with humans, and I'm sympathetic. Obviously, the best people out there have the capability of doing both these roles, but you will need to be able to look at somebody in the face and understand their anxieties, sympathize with the political dynamics that they have to do it, threading the needle of what is possible in an organization based upon budget, need, and what the problem is actually affecting the people, right? Having the access, insight, and trust, making sure that whatever they sell, they know they can deliver. This is something that AI is never going to be able to replace. So, in the past, this was the techie and the sales, and that was a gross generalization of the past. But AI has certainly solidified these two roles in the area of technology today. So these are the two roles, and if you are a person who is going to do one, you're going to need to partner up with somebody who does the other. Maybe that person is yourself. Maybe you can do both. But the two together is how business solutions are going to be created in the future. Or at least that's my prediction. What do you think, David?
I almost stopped guessing out of how this is going to land. I think ultimately it depends on the type of leader, the type of leadership, their experience, what they've leaned into it. I mean, I sit here and I think about Oracle and the decisions that they made with laying off 30,000 people only so that they could essentially have money to hire, or rather free up money so that they can purchase more hardware for servers and stuff. To each is their own, and why people do what they do will remain to be seen. And I think we're going to see a multitude of this. You're going to see signals all over the place. And that's kind of what makes some of this really, really hard to kind of nail down, especially if you're the one that's potentially impacted, because you've got to figure out, if I'm in a company, how is my company culture mapped to these types of decisions so you can kind of plan ahead about where where things may be going. Where do you want to position yourself? Do you want to be the one, doing the networking and the talking, or do you want to be, the Comanche of the machine, so to speak, or Lord of the Flies, to come up with, I guess, a crazy analogy there. But, it really, I think, is going to depend on your personal preference, your skills, and culturally where the company is that you're currently at or working for. And then maybe there's a good potential alignment. So, talk to your friends. Unfortunately, if you're not one that commands the relationships, talk to whatever limited network you have, put feelers out, ask people on LinkedIn, hey, what are you guys seeing? What are you thinking of? I'm in this, role, I'm in this, whatever. And these are the kinds of conversations that typically seem to go absolute gangbusters, because we're not selling or sharing information. If you're asking people genuinely for help, it starts that organic conversation. So LinkedIn is really actually pretty good for that type of investigation, type of use case scenario. So that's basically my 2 cents on, what to do with it, or what I think, and then maybe how to handle it.
Yeah. I mean, again, the Oracle layoffs, it was much worse than that, David. They laid off those people to do debt service. They didn't buy the hardware. They financed it. And they used the reduction of burn, or in this case, X amount of people, so that they could just pay the interest on the loans to buy all the hardware. So, a lot of people are celebrating these kind of things, but I think it's more indicative of how desperate a lot of corporations are nowadays to be able to service debt. They are reducing headcount. And, as you stated before, there may be a lot of unintended consequences towards that. But we'll see. I mean, again, I still think we are much earlier in this curve, but I want to be clear. This is not a temporary downturn or correction or cycle. It is a structural transformation. Just like how hard it was for people who worked in the Rust Belts to learn how to code, the people today are going to have to learn how to do something else. They're going to have to learn how to orchestrate AI instead of coding. They're going to have to learn how to network instead of play with their computer all day long, right? So that is really the choice that all of us have. And, again, that's why this podcast exists, is because we want to help the people, our colleagues, clients, and provide some wisdom for the next generation on how to navigate these kind of situations. This is, my count was the fifth time that in my career we've had a transformational event like this, and they were not downturns or cycles. They were a new technology disrupting how business is done. And every time, the people who can adapt can overcome it. And that's where I'm trying to help people today. I'm working with founders every week to try to help them move forward. And I'm helping people who have been impacted by this to learn new skills and grow. I'm working with clients who are trying to navigate this. I'm trying to work with partners who are trying to change their business to capture the needs of today and not yesterday. And want to open the door. Me and David are available to talk if any of this falls into your domain.
Yeah, just a quick plug. You might want to catch our next show. I'm actually going to show you guys a demo of something that I built to help those of you that find yourself in the most unfortunate situation and need help with your resume. So stay tuned for the next show there.
Well, as always, we're here every week, so reach out. But if you have any ideas for things that you'd like us to cover, please put a comment out. We'd love to hear those. And look forward to next week.
Sounds great. Well, we'll see you soon, Sean. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.